on the 96%,
Well,
or is this an attitude problem that people have?
Well, the food stamps with the stimulus bill, the eligibility was dramatically increased. The benefit was increased about 20%. Now, the people were hurting, obviously, but I think it's time to look at it to make sure that there is no waste, fraud, and abuse in the food stamp program. We've gone to the electronic benefit cards, which have cut down dramatically on the waste and potential fraud, but now they're finding new ways around it. So yes, are there savings that can be brought? Yes, there are. Eligibility, I think we have to look at that because...
Do you have a dollar amount of savings that you think could be found in the food
Well,
stamp
what came out of the House passed potential farm bill, out of about $800 billion of spending, there was about a $16 billion reduction. Now, some people think that's too much. That's only, what, 2%? I think it's very realistic. There's savings.
Let me just ask this before we go on to Robin.
Sure.
The next question. Could either one of you do the same sort of job in getting that farm bill passed if you were elected to Congress? Either one of you would be equally effective?
Oh, I think so, yes. And Des Moines Register did a survey a few months ago talking about the effectiveness of members of Congress, and I was honored that I was #1 as far as our House delegation.
I'd like to know what some of these effective things are. When you talk about that, tell me, what are they? Because we don't have a farm bill, we don't have a wind energy credit. Things are terribly important.
But what I'm asking,
yes, please,
Boswell, is could he do, if he's elected, do as effective a job as you can in getting the farm bill passed?
Obviously not, because it hasn't happened. We ought to be back there doing it right now. If he's his closest friend, if he's the most effective, well, why aren't we in Washington passing the farm bill?
Robin?
Last night at the debate, I think your opponent raised the issue of whether or not you supported vouchers for Medicare. I'm going to give you a chance to continue the debate tonight. Do you support vouchers for Medicare?
No, I do not. I don't think that's necessary. I think it's a wrong way to go, and I don't think any of you or any of us can go out there on $6,000 with the increased cost of medical care can make it work. And so you're going to fall in a real trap. And so what we've put in place, the savings that has been created, the extension of Medicare, those that want to overthrow the Affordable Care Act and start over, would deplete it in 2016. We don't want to go there. We don't have to go there because we have the opportunity to continue to work on this thing, and I think that's what's going on.
Excuse me, but was it a part of the prescription D bill, the first bill, a voucher system?
Well, the first, I'm not sure what you're talking about, but if you're talking about the Pharmaceutical Act?
Yes.
Well, I always had the pits, if you will, on where we have had for Medicare reimbursement. We've kind of been at the bottom for years, and I became aware of that when I went to Washington. I made a lot of effort, spent a lot of time with both senators and different ones, and we weren't getting there because the big states and it goes on. But Iowa getting, I'll throw a figure out, it could be off a little bit, like $3,500 for Iowa, and Louisiana twice that. And well, that didn't happen, so in that first effort, that was being included. Okay. And so to put a fix in that, when it came back, it wasn't there, so no, I didn't support it.
Let's give Mr. Latham a chance here.
Well, Congressman Boswell voted off the floor of the House for the prescription drug bill that included what he calls vouchers or premium support. So now he's had a change of mind, apparently. He voted for it, now he's against it. When it came back from the Senate, it was not included, and so then he voted against it. So apparently it was so important before that he voted for it, and then when it came out, then he voted against the bill.
Let's give Mr. Boswell a chance.
Well, when an opportunity to fix this reimbursement rate when Iowa being at the bottom, that was there, and that was taken away. That took away the incentive to do that, and then you look at this, the overall thing, and creating that donut hole and all the things that's gone wrong with it, and putting the caps on us.
I think you haven't addressed his allegation that you were for it before you were against it.
I was for it with that piece that was in there, Kay, the part was in there, I was for it then. They took it out, and when it came back, then I was no longer for it.
And the piece that was in there was making Iowa's Medicare
process to get-
reimbursement rates better. This is
That's
a chronic problem that we've had over the years.
Thank you, that's
That
exactly
was-
right.
But that
That-
was
that
what was
wasn't it.
changed.
What?
What was changed was the premium supporter of what he calls vouchers came out in the conference with the Senate and that he had voted for. When it was taken out, but then he voted against it. So apparently it was very important to him.
Let's shift and talk about the future of Social Security. Mr. Latham, what would you support in terms of changes in Social Security? Would you raise the retirement age? Would you require means testing?
I think you have to look really. First of all, you look back when the last time we did Social Security. It was Reagan and Tip O'Neill, the speaker, and they actually sat down, got a bipartisan agreement. But in my mind, Social Security is much better shape than Medicare certainly is. But to me is a sacred promise that the government's made to seniors and those going into the system, that you don't raise the retirement age. What Congressman Boswell actually has voted for in a budget would increase the payroll taxes and the age, and also reduce the price index and the increases that seniors get. But I just think it's a promise that we've made to seniors, and we've got to keep that promise.
How do you make it solvent if you don't make any changes?
The best thing we can do for Social Security, for Medicare, is to get this economy going, actually have people working, paying into the system. And as long as we have uncertainty with taxes, uncertainty with regulations, that is not going to happen. And when that happens, we're going to see an explosion of economic activity in this country. And that is the best way to shore up Social Security and Medicare.
Mr. Boswell, what changes would you vote?
One of the reasons I gave you an answer is because he signed the far-wing right Norquist pledge, and so that's why he's not telling you how to do that, but that's okay, that's his business. Social Security is not the problem in this economy. It's not the problem. Social Security is okay. It has some increasing needs. We've made adjustments over the years. We can do it again. He's got the cap on it. I had a guy call me today. He said, I make over $110,000, but he didn't say how much, but he said, I don't go over the $250 or whatever. But I don't pay any more on that than
Could I just summarize it
what Mr.
so we can move on? Are you saying that Social Security is just fine? Let's let it...
No, I say we have simple ways we can fix it as we need to do it. Right now, it's okay. It's working. It'll continue to work. We will be there for the future. All we have, we can raise the caps, take the caps off. There's things that can be done.
Kathy?
Mr.
And that possibility is out there. And this gentleman, if I could, said he doesn't pay any more than what Mr. Buffett or Mr. Gates
Mr.
pays.
Latham,
and
Mr.
that
Boswell
seems a
mentioned
little
some
crazy.
pledge that you signed. Do you want to
No, he's
respond
talking
to
about
that?
the no increase in taxes, which I did sign, and I've kept my word. Congressman Boswell signed a term limits pledge and then broke the promise. And so because you keep your word, I think it's rather interesting you're criticized for it.
It's hard to move along with additional questions when you keep throwing out new ones.
Seemed like I heard somewhere from some of you folks that he had a pledge one time about the term limits, but
I've
my
never-
grandfather told me something like 12 years. I'll check that out. You might want to check that out. But anyway, my grandfather told me one time, a thinking person allowed to change their mind, they got new information. And, Iowas wouldn't fare too well if we wanted to move up to have opportunity for Iowans to chair a committee or have a leadership position when we are a populated state of about 3 million compared to some of the big states.
Let me
I
just
never
ask-
signed a pledge. He signed
About
a
term
pledge.
limits.
Yeah.
Let me ask you about Medicaid, because a lot of the attention in the election has been to Medicare. But in fact, there's been just some discussion about the Paul Ryan budget would actually cut Medicaid more drastically. And Mitt Romney has said, let's block grant Medicaid to the states. Medicaid right now in Iowa is what a lot of people in nursing homes rely on. So what do you see as the future for Medicaid, and how do you keep it available for people who need it in nursing homes?
Well, if you talk to governors on a bipartisan basis all across this country, they will tell you, please, give us the money that you're spending today in Medicaid. Let us design our own programs for each state, because we care about our poor people as much as anybody in the federal government certainly does. What the proposal is basically to have that money plus a percentage increase each year so that the states exactly know what it's going to cost them. In the Affordable Care Act of the President's health care bill, this is a massive new unfunded mandate to the states, because you're bringing 30 million new people into Medicaid into the states with no way of funding it.
Well, Congressman Boswell, was that a massive new unfunded
Well, I'll answer
mandate?
that, but you know, Dean, you're very good about moving us along, so I want to compliment you on that. But on the Social Security piece, and I want just to finish up on that, and it may cause some more discussion. But you know, when you've suggested that we privatize it, and I've said that in your some questionnaires, we don't want to go there. What can you imagine what would have happened to this country if we'd had Social Security privatized at Wall Street when we went into this recession? I just, that's something I certainly...
Mr. Latham, you deserve a response.
I've never supported privatizing Social Security, and Congressman Boswell knows that.
All right,
very
let's
well.
move on.
I mean,
No,
that's
just one last thing. You know, we can provide for you, save you the look if you want to see it, where he answered a questionnaire that he would start putting money into the Wall Street, into the investment side of it. So,
But we
yeah,
have to
be
take his
glad-
word
be glad-
tonight, though, and he says he is not in favor of that. So I have to take his word tonight at this table. Kathy?
Is Medicaid a big unfunded mandate for the states?
Well,
If
Medicaid is very important, as you know, and I
Affordable Care
realize
Act,
that
I
I
mean.
hope our listening audience knows that when we, you know, citizens run through their resources, they go on to Medicaid, and if they're going to be in a nursing home, whatever, we, you know, I've got a constituent just went through.
Right, but the question is, does the Affordable Care Act put an unacceptable mandate on the states, making them expand Medicaid without paying for it?
Well, I would think that this is something that the states are concerned about, but again, you know, the states, I think all of them went to, and the stimulus we've heard a lot of talk about.
Well, in
said,
Iowa, the governor's talking about opting out of that and not taking that exemption.
well, he
that
hasn't
extension.
done that yet, so let's find out what he does, but I think he's probably given that consideration.
You talked about moving things along, and I must, because we want to turn to foreign policy. Robin?
Yes. As you know, some people have said that Iran may be a few months away from being nuclear capable. My question is pretty simple. Do you think the United States should use military intervention to stop Iran?
That is an extremely important question, and it's a very serious question. I think we have to work with our best ally in the region, which is Israel, who has great intelligence as to what is actually going on inside of Iran today. And when they understand that they're on the edge of getting a nuclear weapon in Iran, if they decide they need to act, we need to support them. Because we
So you would-
cannot let a government like in Iran have a nuclear weapon, because number one, they will use it on Israel, and certainly, and their next goal is to destroy the United States.
So what kind of military intervention do you foresee in Iran?
Well,
Ground troops?
No.
No.
I think to reduce their capabilities, certainly, as far as building a nuclear weapon in Iran, we have the capabilities, and that's why we need, with Israel, to go after those facilities where they're making the uranium and the
Just to clarify,
and the bombs.
with Israel, U.S. forces with Israel, is that what you're saying?
We support them, absolutely. Now, whether that means we go in together or just in support of Israel after they have their strike.
Congressman Boswell.
Well, I certainly support Israel. I have, and I will continue to do so. And it's a very important, and some things you said I agree with. But, you know, I think what we need to do, and I think our Secretary of State's done a pretty good job of making it happen. You know, the sanctions on around the other countries over there, if we're concerned about it, which we are, would you think they'd be a lot more concerned? Of course they are. And so they need to really tighten that down, and I think that process is going on, and keep it up. But, you know, I don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. I probably know more about nuclear weapons than anybody at the table, because I've actually assembled a nuclear weapon in my training years past.
But do you
And
think military intervention should be
Well, I
used?
think we got to gather the information, and you make those decisions based on the intelligence you gather. And I spent the allocated time on that intelligence committee in the Congress, and the background when I was a teacher at the Command General Staff College, very important matter. But I believe the other countries, if they know what's going on, we got to keep working with them.
Well, let's put a tie on it. Mr. Latham says we would assist Israel if necessary.